In this video, I want to introduce you to a number of different marketing models and frameworks and high-level marketing strategies, some of which you may already be familiar with, but many of which I'm thinking just might be new. The beauty of learning these models, these frameworks, and these strategies is that once you learn them, well, you can't unsee them, and they're going to be stuck in your brain forever. Like a scary movie that haunts your dreams and wakes you up in the middle of the night screaming for mommy, you'll find these marketing models start to show up everywhere. From the shows you watch, to the articles you read, even to conversations you have with other people. So with that said, I've got two warnings for you before we dive in. First, proceed with caution, because once you learn the things that I'm about to show you, well, your business and your life will never be the same, but in a good way. Next, what you're about to see is not gonna be pretty. Not in a scary way, but in a, I'm gonna be drawing these models myself, and my handwriting and artistic abilities are terrifyingly inadequate. Hey, I'm a marketer, not an artist. But if you're up for the challenge, then so am I. So let me show you how it's done, starting with one of the most common and most popular marketing models of all time, the 4 Ps of the marketing mix. All right, so the very first model that I want to cover with you here is probably, like I already mentioned, the most common, the most popular, and the most well-known. So if you've been studying marketing for any length of time, you've probably come across the 4 Ps of marketing. Essentially, what the 4 Ps are designed for is to give you an overall guideline or baseline or foundation or sort of structure to design and to start thinking about your marketing from the perspective of both your business as well as your customers and what you're trying to communicate and what you're trying to deliver. In fact, that's a pretty decent introduction to all of these models because they really are just that. They're models, they're frameworks, they're structures, they're sort of outlines that are going to give you clarity and help you to really get down to what's most important and to communicate your message and deliver the message of your business in the most effective and really profitable way possible. But enough on that, let's get tactical, starting with the 4 Ps. And so there you have it, the 4 Ps of marketing, starting at the top with the product, which is essentially anything that you sell, whatever offer it is. It does not necessarily have to be a physical product. It could very much be a service or some kind of intangible deliverable, basically whatever it is that you're delivering, that you're selling to the market. Next, you have price, which is an incredibly important part of the overall marketing mix, because not only is this going to help to influence the profitability and sort of the ability of your business to stay in business for a long time by making sure that you're covering your costs and you have sufficient margins, but price communicates something to your customers in and of itself. As an example, if I were to give you sort of two different scenarios, a $100,000 car and a $10,000 car, and then ask you, well, which is the better car? Well, without knowing anything else about anything else, you'd probably say that the $100,000 car is a better car simply because it costs more. And this same kind of psychological bias, psychological influence is had and is delivered by choosing the price for your product or your service. Next, you have place, which is where you're going to be doing your marketing, essentially making sure that you're doing the right things in the right place for the right people by finding out where your customers, where your ideal target market are present and active, either online or offline, and then making sure to go there. Making sure to spend a little bit of extra time here, really doing some due diligence and some market research goes a really long way, and it'll help you avoid what I call the marketing wasteland, which is essentially all of the places where your customers are not. As an example, just because you've heard that XYZ new social media platform is where all the cool kids are hanging out, well, if your customers aren't there, then you shouldn't be either. And then the 4th P of the 4 Ps is all about promotion, which is essentially your marketing strategy, the way that you're going to communicate your message, and it can involve all kinds of different facets of marketing, from advertising to PR or public relations, to content marketing, to email marketing, to video marketing, and a whole bunch more. So that, my friend, is the 4 Ps of the marketing mix. But you may have also heard of something called the 7 Ps of the marketing mix. Man, marketers really like Ps. So let's quickly cover those now. Now, fortunately for us, much of the hard work has already been done because the 7 Ps really just builds on the 4 Ps that we already covered and adds a few more things that you may want to consider. The first of which is people, and this refers to not only you, but also to any staff members or team members or contractors or customer service people, or essentially any of the other people that are involved with your business that interface with your customers. This is an incredibly important piece of the puzzle because the way that you act, the way that your team acts, the way that you present yourself, that you defend your values, that you portray your mission, that you essentially hold yourself, well, that speaks a ton about the kind of person that you are, about the kind of business that you're running, and of course, all of these things are delivering some kind of message to your customers. Next is the process, and essentially this is the deliverables or the systems or the frameworks that you have in place in order to make doing business with you easy and fun, and at least not a complete and utter disaster. I mean, we've all had experiences of dealing with businesses that are a complete pain in the neck. I'm talking about getting stuck on hold with customer service for like 45 minutes to an hour. I'm talking about rude or completely careless salespeople that are simply operating like you don't exist. And I'm talking about essentially anything else that's going to put a bad taste in your customer's mouth. In today's hyper-competitive business world, well, there's a lot of other opportunities for your customers to choose from and to go to. So you want to make sure that you've got the right people in the right place for the right job. And then the final P of the 7 Ps is physical evidence. And in today's world, I'd like to kind of almost replace this with a combination of physical evidence and digital evidence, because more and more businesses are operating more and more online. Essentially, the physical evidence is everything that a customer sees and touches and smells if you happen to be in a physical location, anything that is conveying what your brand and what your business is about. This is why things like paying attention to branding and paying attention to good design principles goes a really long way, because they create almost an instantaneous reaction in your customers. And the reality is that first impressions do matter. So you want to make sure that you're putting forward your absolute best foot possible. Okay, so with the 4 Ps out of the way and the 7 Ps out of the way, it's time to move on to our next marketing model, which is none other than the positioning map. Now, the positioning map is one of my favorite marketing models and something that I use all the time, especially in the early stages of doing due diligence on a business or doing any kind of market research, because it's useful for figuring out where your business fits now, as well as where your business may want to fit in the overall scheme of things, compared to all of the competitors and all of the other services and products and offers that are out there. Now, the way that a positioning map works is essentially you pick a couple different criteria, a couple different sort of categories, and you plot them against each other. So let me explain what that looks like. Now, for this example, I've decided to plot 2 of the most common positioning map criteria against each other, that of price and that of quality, essentially pitting out those high quality, high price brands and businesses against those lower quality and more affordable or economical or budget friendly brands. Now, the following example I'm about to give you is going to involve coffee, and I appreciate this is a pretty polarizing topic. Some people defending their brand of coffee as the premier and the best brand of coffee out there. Other people staunchly advocating for theirs. So let's not get too personal here. The point is, you want to try to remove any form of subjectivity, any form of bias, any form of your own personal opinion, and look at your brand and look at your business as objectively as possible. Because I can assure you, your competitors, if they're doing it well, they're doing this. They're trying to remove all of their own internal bias, and they're trying to look at what the market is actually viewing them as. And this is incredibly important because you need to have a level of self-awareness and of acceptance of where you are now if you truly want to build a business and a brand that gets you to where you ultimately want to go. So, back on the topic of coffee. Well, let's take a few well-known and common coffee brands, like we'll say Starbucks, we'll say Dunkin' Donuts, we'll say the Canadian equivalent of Dunkin' Donuts being Tim Hortons, and let's go with some kind of boutique coffee roaster in your local area that just creates absolutely amazing coffee. All right, so here we are looking at my freshly filled out positioning map where we're pitting these different coffee brands against each other. And you can see that we've got Starbucks kind of in the upper cost and decent quality bracket. We've got Dunkin' Donuts in kind of the mid tier of decent quality, but much lower cost. We've got our boutique coffee roaster in that top corner of high price, high quality. And then I added gas station coffee down there as well. We're going to say a lower quality and a much lower cost as well. Well, this exercise is important because it allows you to figure out where you sit on the spectrum, and it also allows you to, at least in the case of mapping out price versus quality, identify a few dead zones and a few areas that you really never want to operate in. Now, in the case of this example, you can see the dead zones I've marked out in red being that of really high price and really low quality, which is clearly a terrible proposition for everyone. But there's also the lesser known area of being really high quality and really low price, because a couple different things are going to happen here. The first of which is that low price, well, like I already mentioned, it is going to communicate a lower value, a lower quality to your customers. So even if it's amazing, if you're still pricing it at budget-friendly prices, people just aren't going to appreciate it as much. It's weird, I know, but that's how the brain works. The second danger of this is more of a business-focused view, and that's essentially that if you're operating with truly high quality and low prices, well, it's going to start to eat into your margins, which is bad for your overall profit, not to mention the fact that if it is of truly decent quality, you can probably charge more and charge that premium price, which means you're leaving more money on the table. All right, so that is the positioning map. And with that out of the way, let's move on to my own personal creation, the marketing master plan, which in my humble but I believe accurate opinion is probably the best way to structure out your marketing from start to finish. So the way that the marketing master plan works is in a sequential and strategic order, starting with the very first and most important thing and then building on that sequentially from there. The reason this is so incredibly important is that when most people think about marketing their business, when they think about marketing strategy in general, it tends to be done with kind of this sort of seat of your pants, random acts of marketing kind of thing where they hear about a new social media platform or a new tactic or trick or hack and they go all in on that one, and then sooner than later, most likely almost immediately realize that it's not everything that they thought it would be. Well, there's a way to avoid that all, and that's really by going back to the beginning and making sure that you're building your campaign, that you're making smart strategic decisions based on proven fundamentals and marketing principles. As an added bonus, this marketing master plan that you're looking at right here, well, this has been sort of my brainchild over the past 10 years, and I've used it with everyone from content creators and solopreneurs and small mom and pop shops, all the way up to billion-dollar empires and everything in between. And the point is that it works, and it works really well. So the very first step is starting off with the model, and this is the what that you're going to be offering to your market. Your offer, the way that it's structured, the way that it's priced, the way that it's positioned, essentially all of the aspects that go into whatever product or service that you're selling. And it's incredibly important to be really thorough here and really clearly define exactly what you're selling and why you're selling this and all of the benefits that come along with it. Then you have who, and this is your ideal customer avatar, or ICA, that perfect target market that loves you, loves what you do, wants to tell everyone about just how great you are. Now, the traditional ideal customer avatar is usually made up of a couple different criteria, including demographic details like age, gender, income, occupation, title, things like that, their geographic details like what city, state, province, or country they live in, as well as their psychographic details like what are their attitudes, their values, their beliefs, or any organizations or groups or affiliations they're a part of. The better you understand your ideal target market, the better all of your marketing is going to be, because your customers don't buy when they understand, they buy when they feel understood. And the only way to make them feel understood is by actually understanding them. Shocking. I know. After that, you move on to the message, and this is really why they should care. What's in it for them? What are the benefits that they're going to receive? Or you can do what I do here, which is list out all of their miracles and their miseries. Their miseries are all of their pains and fears and frustrations and problems and all the things they're trying to move away from, and their miracles are all of their wants and their dreams and their goals and desires and all the things they're trying to move towards. Again, the better that you're able to identify and clarify and clearly explain all of their pains and problems as well as all of their goals and dreams, the better you're going to be able to communicate how your business helps them to bridge the gap away from where they are right now, that terrible icky place they're not liking so much, to where they want to get to. After that, you move on to media, which is all about the when and the where of your marketing, essentially figuring out where they're present and active online and offline so you can go there, what kind of content you're going to create, whether it's text or video or audio or any combination of them, and then the when being the frequency with which you're going to do so. And then you have the final part, the machine. This is the tactical implementation of the marketing funnel or of the customer journey, which is essentially all of the steps that you're going to create, that you're going to use to guide them from where they are right now, being someone that maybe has no idea who you are or what your business is about, all the way through that customer journey, so where they end up at the other end, a lifelong and loyal customer that again buys from you and refers all of the people that they know. Now, one of the key aspects to the marketing master plan, and one of my personal marketing philosophies, is all about 80-20, or the Pareto's principle, essentially determining that 20% of your efforts are going to lead to 80% of your results. Or in this case, 20% of your marketing efforts or marketing channels are going to lead to 80% of your results. So your goal is to find those and do whatever you can to double down on the winners and cut all the losers. All right, so with that said, let's move on to the next model, which is the STP model of marketing, and a personal favorite of mine. Actually, I think they're all kind of my favorite. First off, the STP model stands for segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Now, you'll remember from just a couple minutes ago, we already talked about the positioning map and figuring out where your business and where your offer stands in regards to other competitors or other offers in your space. Well, that's one of the most powerful things about learning and understanding these different marketing models and frameworks, is that you're going to find that there is a considerable amount of overlap between this model and that framework and that strategy and so on. So the better better that you understand them, the better that you're going to be able to quickly grasp all of the concepts and be able to look at an example and see how it's going to apply to whatever business that you're trying to work on. Anyway, that's enough preaching. Let me show you how this actually works. The first thing to understand about the STP model is sort of this general understanding that in any given market, there's a ton of different people with a ton of different categorizations or criteria or commonalities between them, some of which are going to be absolutely amazing and the perfect fit for your business, and others are going to be a complete and utter disaster to work with. Well, unsurprisingly, your goal is to find those perfect people and to ideally avoid and repel everybody else. Now, depending on your business and your market and your industry, you can segment your market however you so choose, using different demographic details or geographic details or psychographic details, again, by age or by gender or by income or by location or by attitude or affiliation or the type of car they drive or if they're dog people. Pretty much the sky's the limit. The key is to try to find things that are actually relevant to the people that you want to serve. And then once you've got these different criteria, well, you'll do what you're looking at on the screen here and essentially just segment them, put them into little buckets, little categories, and step one is pretty much done. But there's a step two. Step two, as highlighted by this nifty blue color right there, is all about targeting. It's about choosing one of the segments to go after and then really doubling down there, really figuring out all of their miracles and their miseries like I covered before, as well as what makes them tick, what they want, and how your business is uniquely positioned to help give that to them. So that, my friend, would be targeting. And then, of course, you take it to step 3, which is positioning, where essentially you go back to the drawing board, you look over your model and your market and your message, and you try to position your business as the ideal solution for that unique segment. You see, marketing is done in one segment, one offer, one customer avatar at a time. You simply can't go super broad and try to appeal to everybody because everybody, aside from being just too many of them, well, they're all so different. And again, when you try to appeal to everybody, you end up appealing to nobody. This is because you're forced to water down your message. You're forced to become more bland and more vanilla and more approachable by the masses, which makes you less appealing and less attractive to the people you actually want to serve. Of course, once you've done all of that segmentation work and you've done your targeting and your positioning, well, you can go after other segments, as illustrated by that nifty green color right there. So for example, if you're a say photographer and you do, I don't know, let's say weddings and corporate photography. Well, clearly there's no real overlap here. You're going to need different messages. So you could segment and target and go after married people or engaged people getting married for your wedding photography. And then you could create a separate segment and position your business that way to go after sort of corporate people looking for headshots and business type photos. All right, next let's go over marketing funnels, as well as cover 3 of the weirdest words in all of marketing, being tofu, mofu, and bofu. Yeah, I didn't make those up. Now, what makes marketing funnels so great is that they're just so incredibly clear, and they're visually described and visually depicted as a funnel, with essentially a lot of people coming in at the top, working their way through, and less people coming out at the bottom. And this basically describes all business activities, all marketing activities, where at first you go out there and you present your message to the world, and a few people are interested and willing to take the next step. And then once they take that next step and they learn a little more about your business and your offer, well, some of them, but not all of them, are going to take that next step and possibly get more information or ultimately make a purchase. So again, we start with a lot of people at the top and we slowly filter them down until at the bottom we get those most dedicated and most loyal and most relevant customers for your business. So TOFU stands for top of funnel. It's not very original, but it works. Essentially, this is the awareness stage where you're getting someone's attention, you're telling them about the problem, or you're communicating with the problem that they know they have, and you're establishing some rapport, maybe a bit of likability, and hopefully some authority. Your goal here is to try to get attention, make them aware, and to appear at least somewhat relevant to the problem they're having. Then you move on to MOFU, which stands for middle of funnel. Again, not very original, but it works. And here, you're working with people in more of the consideration stage. So by now they know about you, they may know about what you do, and it's your opportunity to show them how what you have to offer is a good solution or at least worthy of their consideration. And then you move them further down to BOFU, or bottom of funnel. And this is sort of the decision stage. stage. This is where you're going to be highlighting more of the aspects of your product or your service. You're going to be showing them why it's the best solution for them, as well as all the details around whatever they need to do in order to buy it. So that's the marketing funnel, but it does get a little bit deeper with kind of an action stage or an action part of the funnel where the person actually makes that critical action of handing over credit card or cash or whatever it is that they're paying with in order to become an actual customer. And if you want to take it a step further, and I highly advise you do, then you could also look at the next stage, which is this retention stage, essentially where you're maximizing your lifetime customer value and you're making sure that you're keeping them on as a customer for as long as possible. That lifetime customer value is an incredibly important number to cover, so I'm going to cover that in just a second. But the key thing that I really want you to take away from this marketing funnel model is understanding that any buying decision, any sort of purchase, any form of consumer behavior whatsoever, it involves a customer journey. It involves a marketing funnel that takes someone from having no idea who you are and then guiding them through a process so they can get to know and to like and to trust you and to ultimately end up buying from you. One of the worst offenses in all of marketing are those people that just simply show up in front of you and shove their offer down your face and expect you to buy and then get mad when you don't. Whoa, back off, dude. I don't even know you. So don't be afraid to spend a little bit of time whining and dining your customers by educating them, by creating content, by showing up for them, by making sure that they really understand that you are the best fit for their needs. All right, so with most of the beginner frameworks out of the way, it's time to move on to a slightly more intermediate step by talking about two of the most important metrics in all of marketing, and a term that I call the magic metric. All right, so if there's anything that you take away from this training here today, it's understanding the magic metric. And this really is the key to unlocking unlimited business growth, unlimited scalability, and unlimited profits, essentially allowing you to tap into marketing that pays for itself and that brings you new customers, new clients, and new sales on autopilot. Now, I kind of sound like a late night infomercial salesman, but I got nothing to sell you here other than on the promise that this magic metric is worth understanding and applying in your business. Now, just like how I'm a marketer and not an artist, well, I'm a marketer and not a mathematician, so we're going to keep this pretty simple. But fortunately, simple will do. So my friend, what you're looking at right over there is two different metrics that you need to be aware of. The first of which is CAC, which is customer acquisition cost. This is essentially how much it costs you in order to acquire a new customer, a new client, or a new sale. Now, there's a number of different ways of doing this, but the basics are you essentially add up all of your marketing budget and your advertising spend and your content creation spend and whatever else that you're doing for your marketing, and that becomes your marketing budget, your overall spend. Then you simply figure out, well, how many customers, how many clients, and how many sales did you get from this, and you've got your customer acquisition cost. In the future, you do want to get a little bit more specific and start to plot out different marketing mediums against each other. For example, you may find that while running Facebook ads, you're able to acquire a customer or a sale for $100, whereas say with Instagram ads, you're able to acquire a customer for $200, which would lead you down the path of either optimizing your Instagram or removing it altogether and allocating that budget towards Facebook. So that's part one. But the other part is something that we talked about earlier, which is LTV, or lifetime value. And this is how much is a customer worth to you, to your business over their entire lifetime. And after over a decade of doing this, I can confidently tell you that most businesses either don't know this number or they grossly undervalue the true value a customer and a client has to their business. For example, if you sell something for, say, I don't know, let's use easy math, $100. Well, it's not just $100 because they may come back next month or next week or next year. Not to mention, they may also refer their friends or their family, which kind of gets lumped into something I call invisible ROI, because while you may not be able to track it, it's still providing revenue and growth for your business. Anyway, the magic metric is essentially what happens when your cost to acquire a customer is less than the lifetime value of a customer, meaning that what you're spending is much less than what you're earning. So when you figure that out and you figure out what channels are delivering you the best return on investment or ROI, you're able to double down there and essentially acquire new customers for free and to get paid while you're doing it. So one final example to really drive this point home. Let's say again that you've got a customer acquisition cost of $100 with Facebook. So this means that lifetime value of $1,000 for that customer, well, when we spend $100, we're making $900 profit. If it's costing us $200 through Instagram, well, we still have $800 profit. We've got $50 for YouTube as an acquisition cost, $950 profit. And for our last example there, the newspaper, we could supplement that or replace it with, say, Twitter or LinkedIn or TikTok or whatever other channel that you're using. But let's say for this example, it costs you $1,500 in order to acquire a new customer. Well, that customer is only worth $1,000. So this means that that marketing channel is losing you $500, which means it needs to be optimized or eliminated. All right, so at this point, we've covered some beginner-friendly models and frameworks. We've covered a more intermediate one with CAC versus LTV. And now for this final piece, I'd like to present you with a slightly more advanced topic with something I call funnel math. Essentially, what you're doing with funnel math is really just building on that previous example by really structuring out and really laying out all of the different steps of your marketing funnel and of your customer journey so that you can start to assign different metrics and sort of different analytics to different steps of your funnel. Not only is this going to tell you which parts of your marketing are delivering good return on investment, but it's also going to start to raise any red flags or highlight areas that you need to focus on and to optimize. So the example I'm about to show you is going to be pretty simple, but don't be afraid to play around with things a little bit. Grab a pen, grab some paper, grab an iPad if that's your thing, and map out your own funnel, starting to assign your own metrics. Again, this simple exercise is responsible for helping generate millions and millions of dollars, and I know that when you apply these same concepts, you can have some amazing results in your business. All right, so I told you it was going to get messy, but what you're looking at right over there is basically an overall marketing funnel, online marketing funnel that involves a few basic steps of some clicks, going to some leads, and then ultimately converting into some sales. Don't be afraid to pause the video or watch this part back if you need a little bit more clarification, but let me do my best to walk you through it now. All right, so the very first thing that we really need to do here is figure out kind of our overall budget. Now, we can do this ahead of time, or we can do it in hindsight by looking back at what we actually spend, but we'll say for the sake of argument and for this example that our budget for this campaign is $1,000. Well, we know that if we spend this $1,000, we can then map things out, and we have a pretty decent idea of what some industry standard conversion rates are going to be and some cost per clicks based not only on industry averages, but also on what we may have experienced in the past. So for this example, let's say that our budget of $1,000 gets us 1,000 clicks at an average cost of about $1 cost per click. Well, when they've done that click and then they've gone over to the landing page or to the opt-in page to become a lead, we can see that we're now getting 300 leads. And from there, we can figure out that we've got around a 30% conversion rate on our landing page or our opt-in page. What's cool about doing things this way is that from the very early stages, you're able to see if you're even in the right ballpark, if you're even in the right range. After all, if you're spending, say, $100 a click or something obscene, well, this entire campaign is probably not going to work, and you're going to need to go right back to the beginning. Same thing goes if we're looking at, say, a 1% conversion rate on our landing page, or 5%, or anything that is going to just be costing us an absolute fortune in order to get a lead. Anyway, with these 300 leads, let's say that you've got a good sales system in place, you have some good email automation, you've got a calendar application and a booking form if you're doing kind of B2B calls, or you've got a well-optimized sales page if you're doing e-commerce or anything like that. The point is that our page is converting at a decent rate. In this case, we've got a 10% conversion, which means from those 300 leads, 10% are actually converting into sales, which gives us 30 sales. Of course, you're a smart marketer and you know that all those people that didn't buy, well, now just may not be the right time, which means you're going to put in a decent follow-up system and you're going to be able to capture probably at a minimum, I would argue, around 1%, but you could probably bump this up to 5% or 10%, maybe even 20 or 30, as long as you're willing to invest enough time and energy into nurturing these leads over time. So of those 300 leads, 30 convert into initial sales. That leaves us with 270 left. Say we convert an additional 1%, that leaves us with 2.7 extra sales, but for the sake of easy math, we're going to say 3 more sales. Now, if we come to the top of the document, you'll see that we've got a selling price of $50. We've got a total of 33 sales, and that leaves us with a revenue of $1,650 from our original $1,000 spent. So is this an amazing funnel? No, not really, but it's decent, and at least it works right off the bat, meaning you're able to put in $1 and get out about $1.65 back. And this is the importance of making sure that you understand your overall marketing strategy, your campaigns, and your funnel math. Now, I appreciate that was a whole lot to cover, so good for you for sticking with me. But if you want to take this the next step further and get even more practical and actionable marketing strategies to really help grow your business, well, the next thing you're going to want to do is check out the video I've got linked up right here on digital marketing. So make sure to check it out now, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, the next thing that'll really help you become a better digital marketer is to understand the differences between strategy and tactics and when to use them. Strategy is all the big picture stuff, and this is really where you